My next patron question is from Niall, who wants me to compare two raunchy comedies to see how well they hold up today. Which comedy do you think is better, Animal House or Porky's? Both were incredibly successful raunchy comedies and received negative reviews at the time of their release. However, Animal House is now considered a comedy classic, while Porky's has maintained its negative reception. I'd also like to ask, in the wake of the Me Too movement, do you think that the adult humor in both have been negatively affected, or can they just be seen as products of their time? Watching both of these films, one can certainly make comparisons between them. In addition to what Niall mentioned, they also seemed inspired by American Graffiti, and how they presented a nostalgic look at the 50s and 60s and a loose plot about these young men getting into hijinks. Which do I prefer? This is actually an incredibly easy choice, as Animal House definitely wins. Animal House was able to depict the wild antics of this college fraternity without getting too obnoxious. It definitely operates on a slobs versus snobs concept, which became a popular comedy film device at the time. And it is funny seeing the more rambunctious fraternity go up against the more upper-class fraternity and the college dean. I think what also helps Animal House work is that each character feels distinct, so they manage to stand out. The cast was filled with talented actors, although John Belushi is the standout as Bluto. However, Tim Matheson and Peter Riegert are also really good as the closest things to straight men in this film. There's an energy to Animal House that keeps it moving as we go from set piece to set piece, and the writers manage to balance the crude lowbrow gags with smarter humor. Now, are there aspects that don't hold up? Probably. The whole concept of fraternities is starting to become outdated as universities put more scrutiny on them. I've never even understood the point of fraternities. A few scenes also play out differently now than they likely did in 1978. For instance, the famous scene with Bluto on the ladder. That's definitely reprehensible behavior on his part, although I think the humor comes more from Belushi's physical comedy rather than him watching the girls undress. There's also the scene of the girl who passes out drunk in front of Tom Hulce. They use a devil and angel shoulder gag like out of a Donald Duck cartoon, although that scene strangely feels ahead of its time, as the angel is the one who rightfully tells Hulce not to do anything to her, explaining the reasons why. And in the end, he doesn't and takes her home safely. With that said, we do get a shocking revelation about the girl later on, and I don't know if that would fly today. I don't entirely understand the scene in the black bar, though. I think there are enough good qualities in Animal House and jokes based on things other than sex that the film still works for modern sensibilities. Porky's, on the other hand, is just horrifying to watch unfold. I hated everything about this film, and I'm astonished it was such a huge hit back in the day. Why? It wasn't the only raunchy comedy at the time that tried to follow in Animal House's footsteps, and certainly not the only film with nudity. So why was it a box office hit, while other movies of this ilk failed? I have no idea. The main problem with Porky's is how absolutely detestable the characters are. We follow these young men as they commit a bunch of sex crimes, and none of it is funny. I did not laugh once. There's not an ounce of cleverness in this movie. And listen, I like my fair share of stupid comedies, but give me some joke that's not based on someone's nether regions or on women being naked. And remember when I said the characters in Animal House were distinct? Not so in Porky's, where the male characters are basically interchangeable. Then you have the women, who are only treated as sex objects, and the antagonists are made as over-the-top as possible. Who am I supposed to be rooting for here? I think the film sees the young men as the heroes of the story, because they face absolutely no consequences for their actions. The local police even stick up for the boys when they blow up a strip club. The film also throws in some anti-Semitic slurs as a way to comment on the prejudice at the time, but it's very awkwardly done and not explored with any sort of insight. Bob Clark was apparently inspired by his teenage years in Florida when he made Porky's, and if this is an accurate portrait, I'm sorry Mr. Clark, you had some crummy friends. Porky's is definitely a film that does not hold up to modern scrutiny at all, but maybe you disagree with me. Let me know in the comments whether you prefer Animal House or Porky's, and thank you for your question, Niall. And if you like this video, please subscribe.